the communists and the Congresses, they hate. We know that, starting from our first dictator, Jawaharlal Nehru. But okay, it took a couple of seconds to register that, but that is absolutely true. So, sir, I will hold you to that. I hope you don't regret saying that, because I think criticism is important, because criticism does not allow you to escape reality. This book, as I said, is no longer meant for its intended audience. This book is loved by its real audience, and the real audience is asking the question. And the question is as follows. Yes, you have opened our eyes. Yes, you have woken us up. And yet we can't do anything to remove the injustice. So was it better that we were asleep? Was it better that we were wallowing in ignorance than for you to come along and shake us up and wake us up and then say, well, you can't do anything? That is the choice that we are confronting right now as a society and as a country. The Hindu candle is burning at both ends, and the wax is melting. And at one end is appeasement, and at the other end is discrimination. And if it was just one end, it would have slowed the burning of the candle, the melting of the wax. But right now, it's not just that it is at both ends, it is being speeded up at both ends. I will come to the discrimination that the book talks about. But before that, I want to talk about the first end from where the Hindu candle is burning, which is appeasement. Now, Hindus as a society have become so used to minority appeasement that we don't really mind it. And to be honest with you, every political party cutting across party lines, even Professor, the BJP, panders to this thing called appeasement. And Hindus didn't mind it because, yes, it does affect you. You feel a bit bad that why is just one particular community being appeased. But people realize this is the cycle of elections and this is what politicians do. And if a little bit of money preferentially or subsidies are going to one segment of the society, it's all right. But what the society didn't realize, that appeasement is like cancer. And when it spreads through various stages. And each progressive stage gets murkier and darker and more dangerous. So while the first stage of appeasement was fine, it was welfare, and people didn't really mind it, that preferentially there was welfare that was going towards the minorities. It very quickly went to the next stage, the stage 2, which was wokefare. And now it is at stage 3, which is warfare. And that is when the Hindu candle is burning, and the speed at which it is burning is alarming. Now, I don't need to talk about the welfarism that happened through the face of appeasement. We all know that. You know the preferential, in fact, a sitting prime minister even said that Muslims have the first claim or first right to resources. It was almost enshrined, if not in our constitution, then in the manner of thinking, the way the government thought. I don't need to talk about the various preferential schemes. You had the Hajj subsidies, you had the monthly salaries to imams and priests, you had the interest-free loans on Waqf land, you had so many other things, iftar parties, that the state was giving money preferentially in the name of appeasement. Free pilgrimages. Incidentally, BJP also promised free pilgrimage in Nagaland recently. To anyone who voted for them, they said, we will send you free of cost to Jerusalem. They didn't even know where Jerusalem is. They said, Ayodhya bheja nahi hai, first you're sending us to Jerusalem. Every political party does it, and to the extent we've become used to it, because it doesn't really hurt us emotionally, psychologically, and physically. What started hurting us is the wokefare. Because encouraged by welfare, the next stage came. where the government and the powers that be said, we are no longer satisfied with giving welfare. Let us start hurting the Hindu psyche as well. And that is where, through cinema, through art, through culture, through school textbooks, through naming of the roads, through naming of the cities, we started to eulogize the villains as heroes and made our heroes as villains. That is what is woke fare. And that became damaging to the Hindu psyche to such an extent that the Hindu started self-loathing. The Hindu started on a process of self-deprecation, on criticizing its own civilization, his own upbringing. He started rationalizing the fact that a barbarian who murdered 4.6 million Hindus, who decapitated our gurus, we had roads named after him, Aurangzeb. We had cities named after him. The Hindu rationalized that the greatest university in the world, Nalanda, that was burnt by an invader Khilji, Bakhtiyar, and the library that was full of 9 million books took 6 months to burn down. It's almost as if a civilization was burned down. And we were okay with the fact, we are still okay with the fact, that the nearest railway station to Nalanda is named after that barbarian who burned Nalanda, Bakhtiyarpur. That is the psychological damage. Of course, it started much before Jawaharlal Nehru, when we became independent, when at the consecration of Somnath, Nehru almost forbade the president to go and visit Somnath and its consecration, saying, I fear Hindu revivalism. As if a Hindu realizing what true Hinduism is would be something that would be fearful for the country. And it started much before that, when you had Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi and all the, starting from the Mopla thing, Khilafat movement. I did not go into that, all those things. But the fact is that it continued. It continued beyond Jawaharlal Nehru. It continued beyond Indira Gandhi. It continued beyond Congress. It is continuing. And that is why admiration can turn into anger. When the eyes are open and you realize the grave mistakes that were done by Nehru, Gandhi, Indira, Rajiv, and appeasement and pandering, why are those mistakes still continuing? And a very pertinent example, and Professor was very right in mentioning Vande Mataram. We celebrated just yesterday, day before yesterday, the 150th anniversary of that song. And Prime Minister Modi very rightly talked about the awful fact that Jawaharlal Nehru, on Jinnah's demand, curtailed the two most immortal paragraphs of Vande Mataram, so that it doesn't offend the Muslims and Jinnah. What is Vande Mataram? Without realizing that it's no ordinary song. It defines who we are as a people, as a country. It is an umbilical cord that connects us to this land that we call motherland. And you truncate the most iconic paragraphs that talk about the symbolism of Goddess Durga, Goddess Lakshmi, and Goddess Saraswati, the three most glorious endowment of our civilization towards us, and you truncate it. So thank you, Prime Minister, for telling us that it was truly truncated. But then I ask you, why has it remained truncated in the last 11 years? That is the purpose of the book. The purpose of the book is, when your eyes have been opened, is for us, and not just you. When I say you, I include myself and you, because even I didn't know half the things, as I said, that I wrote about, the discrimination, appeasement that is happening. We need, as a society, to ask this question. Yes, thank you for telling us that injustice has happened. But we want to ask you, you are in power, why is this injustice continuing? And it is not just a song, and I'll come to that. The appeasement has now transgressed from welfare to wokefare and to now warfare. What do I mean by that? When it goes to warfare, it directly hurts us as a society, as a country. When you see, for pandering to the vote bank, you are actually literally releasing terrorists. Coimbatore bombers were released by the DMK government. It's not just a question of that they were released. It's a question that some of them were released despite the Supreme Court denied them bail and said these people cannot be set free. Even bail was denied, and yet you had the bombers released. And the pretext of the release, let no one say that we did not think of Muslims. This was the pretext. You've seen in Karnataka, during Hubli riots, when some AIMIM corporators and many Muslims were arrested and booked, the Congress government of Karnataka has removed those charges. This is what is happening. And all through the length and breadth of the country, you have SDPI, you had PFI, you had so many other cases. It is now directly linked to warfare. Warfare is when there is no discrimination, or the line that separates appeasement from discrimination is blurred. When you actually start promulgating anti-Hindu laws, anti-Hindu acts, that is when you transgress that boundary. And that has happened.